This one's a little bit different because we don't have an exact diagnosis for Zay Flowers, but we're going to run through the events here. So first off, I'm going to play a clip from John Harbaugh for everyone of him saying Zay's status. So we're going to start with that to rehash where it is at this point in time.
He's not. It's not a season-ending injury, so it's just going to be day to day. Try to do everything he can do to get back as soon as he can, and we'll see where that takes us.
So that's number one, right? That's very nothing you can go off there, Yoni.
Nothing.
We'll go to the next part here where there wants to be some optimism, which I love optimism. I love hearing it. Kyle Van Noy on the Baltimore Ravens. He was on his own podcast talking about what he expects for Saturday, and specifically at this point in time, he's expecting to see Zay. So let's play that clip for you guys real quickly.
A little banged up, but knowing Zay, he's played when he hasn't practiced. He's a tough little sucker, bro. He's from Broward County too. You know how those Broward County kids they for real over there down in Florida. They love football, and he's gonna do everything he can to play. I'm going into expecting to see him on Sunday, just knowing who he is as a person and him as his competitive nature. We'll see, but that's I'm going in knowing that I got him in the game. That's for sure.
So, first off, Yoni, I'm sure you got a pair of those glasses.
I was gonna say, Rip, the person interviewing is wearing the glasses, which means you should be wearing those glasses.
Should be.
Yes.
You know what? For the next time, we will do that. But let's talk about the words Kyle Van Noy says. He's expecting Zay until he isn't. Now, that could just be optimism, and as any player, and you can say, or not to show your hand, but hey, I expect my guy to be out there. And no doubt, Yoni, he wants to be out there. But there's a few different elements here, and maybe I'll let you talk about what things could be, and then we'll play the actual clip of the injury, and you can go over it a little bit more.
Yeah, absolutely. You got to think about what could be the issue that we're facing with Zay Flowers, right? So the fact that it's not season ending, to me, obviously it's not an ACL. It's not a meniscal tear. So you want to cross those off. And when you talk about a sprain, although they're differing reports, sprain versus contusion, the only other things that you could sprain is an MCL or an LCL. And we'll break down the film a little bit, which is if it's one of those two, I would put my money on the LCL. The other option would be if you strain the ligament that holds the kneecap in place. That's called your MPFL. I would say that's less likely for that to be the case just based upon the way he was injured. But those are the only really things that you're going to quote unquote sprain, most likely, if you're talking ligamentous.
Right. So, and I appreciate you saying that because that's the reality here. If it's not season ending, you think, all right, that's positive, but a sprain can be complicated, as you just talked about it, what it could be, what it could entail. And even a contusion to a sense here, Yoni, before I play the clip, just so people know, contusions in the knee. Like, how would you describe that? Because that people go, it's just a bruise. But yep. I think that can be that. Is that more of a pain tolerance thing?
That's definitely a pain tolerance thing. So if this is just a knee contusion, I would bet, especially based upon Van Noy's description of who Zay Flowers is and how competitive he is, that guy's out there Saturday night to play if it's just a contusion. If it's a sprain, it can be far more limiting. It's going to limit how much range of motion you have. There's probably going to be more swelling. The knee is a little bit more unstable when it comes to a sprain. The job of the ligaments is to hold the joint together. So if it's stretched out, which is what a sprain is, the joint is a little more lax, and then you're at risk for more of an injury or a more serious injury. So I think that's the way I would describe what a contusion is. We hope it's a contusion.
That's what we're hoping. Well, hey, let's go to the film here then, Yoni, and take a look at a little bit of a zoomed in. This is the play Zay was injured on, and we'll play it a few times, right, over and over again. And he goes and grabs his knee. We'll go back to the beginning here. But Yoni, just watching this on first glance, what is your initial reaction?
So my biggest worry is about the defender who hits him on the way down. So initially he gets hit on the knee with an arm there. That to me would look far more like a contusion than coming across there where the injury happens. Now look at the bend of Zay's right knee there. You can see his instep come towards the camera and his knee move away from the camera. The ligament that holds the lateral side of the knee or the outside of the knee together is your LCL. That's why I think most likely this is an LCL sprain, then it's a matter of how major of a sprain is it? Is it a grade 1, 2, or 3?
Mm-hmm. Well, and then for you to remind people out there, and for someone that had a grade 3 ankle sprain, when you hear sprain still grade 3, it's misleading. Yoni, can you run through the 1 through 3 again for people out there of the severities?
Yeah, absolutely. So grade 1 is the least severe in this scenario, and there you're looking at 2 to 4 weeks for him to get back and playing nicely and comfortably. Now, that's with your standard level athlete when you're not staring down the barrel of a playoff game. Once the fact that the playoff game is coming a week later, could Zay rehabilitate this thing, get on the proper medication to make him ready? Yeah, it's absolutely possible, within the realm possibility, if it's a grade 1. If it's a grade 2, you're looking at 6 to 12 weeks to get back. And then grade 3, it's basically torn. And then you're considering surgical versus months of rehab. So, like I said, if I had to put money on it, it's a grade 1 LCL. There's no MRI report to go off of. The Ravens aren't really talking about it. Van Noy's telling me he's tough as nails. That's great. But we really have no clear-cut diagnosis. If I had to diagnose it based on that film, it's a grade 1 LCL. And you might see him Saturday night, but you'll definitely see him next week.
Well, that's good. Hopefully the grade 1. And yeah, thank you for explaining. And for those, again, you heard that grade 3 tear. And you're looking at surgery. I had a tear of my, am I saying this right? ATFL ligament?
Yeah, anterior talofibular ligament.
And I even said it exactly like that. But I had a tear. And that is something I know you can opt to not have surgery from. But with tears, though, like that, Yoni, yes, they can try to heal, but they're not going to be, how do I want to describe this? Most cases for a grade 3, the surgery is an option that a lot of people really do pursue because of the probability of re-injury. Is that a fair thing to say?
Yeah, absolutely. So again, the ligaments provide you stability around the joint, and if that is compromised, now you have a joint that's sloshing around. For a guy who's cutting constantly, like Zay is, you want as much stability as possible, and that's why the longer we wait, the better he's going to be. But that's also why, if it was something like a grade 3, they will go in and repair those ligaments. They can scar down; they just take a really long time. And then, are they scarring down at the proper level of stability? That's the question mark, and that's why you would consider surgery. That's clearly not what we're dealing with here.
See that, and that's the positive. But now let's just play out this scenario. Potential snow game, weather game on Saturday, and even if it's not, it looks like it's going to be cold. Contusion, sprain, whatever it may be, as shifty as Zay is, it's hard for me to believe, Yoni, that we're going to be able to see 90% of what Zay Flowers usually is. So I think if let's just play this out, he does play. What's your at least comfortability, or what would you expect from Zay on like a percentage wise if it is just a grade 1 sprain in this case?
Yeah, I think you'll see 60 to 75% of what we've come to know and love in Baltimore out of Zay Flowers. And I think it also affects the route tree. I think he's running far more north-south than he is kind of coming across the field like he's known to do. He's far less shifty. You'll see him get the ball and opt to kind of take it out of bounds instead of getting the yards after catch that he's so renowned for. I think it just totally changes the way he plays the game. Could be they use him far more as a decoy than as a number 1 receiver.
Yeah. And I'm glad you gave that 60 to 65%. So if you guys are thinking about that, and Zay's MO, yak, yards after the catch, the shiftiness, the change of direction, sounds like it's going to be hard to do. Just being realistic with it. It's going to have to, as we know, he saw it in the Browns game moving forward. Bateman stepped up, Mark Andrews, Isaiah Likely might now have to be more in the equation, Tylan Wallace. They would have to find a different way. But if the expectation is that Zay Flowers is going to be the Zay Flowers you saw all season, there's a good chance it's going to be scaled back significantly. So, Yoni, I appreciate you on that. And it's crazy that the bang bangs, you really think it's the end of that play here last time. You think it's him getting hit right here.
Yeah, it's not that initial hit. It's all the way at the yep, exactly. It's all the way at the end, and it's creating what's called a varus force, which is when, like, an example is a bow-legged individual has a lot of strain on the lateral aspect of their knee because their knees are pushing out. So against those ligaments that are holding them in, that's the job of the LCL. That's why I think it is an LCL. Remember, like a terrible example is a guy like Robert Griffin, who, if you recall, like he went down in one play. They put him back out there. Now he's working on an unstable knee, and he's one hit away from kind of blowing everything else up. So you want to be really careful. So obviously we can't question Zay's toughness, but also when you think about the gamesmanship here, how much of a risk are you taking by putting Zay out in a wild card weekend when you could save him for later in the playoffs? You got to figure out how risk averse you really are.
I think that's a great moment to bring up, not for Washington fans with RG3 or even for RG3, but it's a great example where the risk there was a re-injury in his case.
Yep.
And look how drastically that changed in the course of his career.
And the organization.
Everything.
Yep.
And right now, obviously things are looking up for Jaden Daniels and the Commanders and all that. But that's something where you're looking at for Zay here. This isn't that Zay doesn't want to be out there. I think we emphasize that. But you got to look at if Zay is going to be a potential Pro Bowl All-Pro moving forward, is the risk for a game at home against Pittsburgh, which you're favored, are you willing to put him out there and put him at risk in a situation where you could wait? One more week could be the difference too. One more week could be the difference for him.
Yeah,
So.
and I think that, Rip, that's a great point. Like the amount of healing that's going to transpire over 2 weeks versus one is immense. His ability to proper rehabilitate, properly load it, run through the necessary routes, that's going to be exponentially greater if you give him that one extra week. So it'll be interesting to see what they do.
Guess we'll have to find out here. Saturday, 8 p.m. Eastern time, Ravens, Steelers, round 3.